Hi, I'm Bob Walker, and for the next 23 days, I'm the head of the web operations community at the Government Digital Service. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. And I'm going to talk to you about, are we all YAML engineers now? So it's a good question, and to us, having been here for the rest of the week, obviously it's quite obvious we are now YAML engineers, but we'll get to that eventually. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and to us, the other thing is, or are we SaaS wranglers? And it's like, oh God, sorry. So it's what I'm going to talk about. So in the beginning, there was the general markup language, which is an interesting thing I found out, is actually the initials of the three people who came up with GML at IBM. So then became HTML, and then there was XML. So these were markups. Actually, YAML is not a markup language. I actually thought that YAML stood for yet another markup language, but it doesn't. It stands for YAML ain't a markup language. It's actually a human-friendly data serialization standard for all programming languages. So basically, it just makes it, but we all use it as a markup language. So what is its uses? So you can use it for configuration, object persistence, internet messaging, data serialization. Or that's what the website says. I suspect most people only ever use it for configuration or object persistence. If you're actually sending data serialization around, you probably should just use JSON. So what about JSON? Now, JSON is actually, so YAML is actually a superset of JSON, and there is actually one case where valid JSON is not valid YAML. JSON allows you to have multiple keys with the same name. YAML doesn't let you do that particularly, and it's actually a thing in the spec. So what about XML? Just say no, I think is the answer to that one. It's unreadable. I mean, it's good for passing stuff around, but I mean, yes, YAML is human readable. It's actually worth using. Okay, so why are we all becoming YAML engineers? Now, I personally blame Ari, so R-I-P-N-R on Twitter, when he finally generated Hyra. And then obviously there was CSV, then there was the YAML backend, and basically all of us ended up doing stuff with YAML. I mean, I've actually did at my current place, we actually did a transition from using CSV to Hyra data to using YAML, and it was like, yeah, it was much better, we could read it. CSV was just unreadable, and then you end up with a lot of stuff. So other things so that's how I think we started, and then other tools picked it up. Actually, this is a very fun thing we have at work. So this is some YAML in our Puppet repo, which is an ERB file which generates YAML to generate XML to generate shell scripts to actually like do Jenkins job builder. So that's Jenkins job builder. So the YAML is the readable version of it, and yes, I probably won't ever stop talking, to be honest. So yeah, so it's sort of a good thing. And then other tools picked up, so what other things use YAML these days? So Kubernetes, Dacker Compose, cloudfoundry, Concourse, travis.ymi, Ansible. I think Ansible was actually one of the things that made it really big that we were using YAML for everything. I mean, who wants to do for loops in YAML? But there you go. I don't know, you can do all sorts of things. So this is a Kubernetes YAML file. It has a lot. This is only 24 lines of it, but you see all this YAML, and I've been to talk to people show, and this is how we configured it, and then have a cat of about 1,000 lines of YAML stream path, which you can't read. So you read about all sorts of these tools where people actually then have YAML generating YAML, and it's like, okay, fine. I think, and then you have the other things like JSON case on it as well, I think someone's doing, and some people are trying to now write tools for Kubernetes to not actually use YAML. I mean, actually, you technically can use JSON. So Docker Compose is YAML. As I say here, at least it's not a shell script. That's one of the things which really gets me about Docker, is the fact that if you actually look at it, a Docker file is just a shell script. So, I don't know, I think it's a good way to do it, and it actually does describe a system. So, one of the big problems that people have had with YAML in the past, especially in the Ruby world, is the security stuff, because Ruby would just load the objects and go, yay, I'll do things. So actually someone's written safeyami, which is a linter to check if you're just doing configuration, safeyami should probably do enough of it. So the other day, Gareth was, I think, actually having a discussion with Luke, actually, about what do we are all now. He said, coin the term YAML farmer, they talk about YAML herders. Obviously, since YAML is supposed to rhyme with camel, it actually makes a lot of sense. So, the question, are we all YAML engineers now? So, yes, we probably are, although, obviously, there are lots of other markup languages as well. So there's HCL if you're doing Terraform, JSON if you really have to, all that sort of things. I mean, so I actually think we're all markup language engineers now, and the answer to that is yes. Although there's actually a certain amount that we're probably all becoming SaaS wranglers as well, because that's what we all do now. We just putting components to pop together and stuff like that, unlike sort of just having a massive big thing. Anyway, thank you much. We're hiring. Not that I care, I'm leaving.